Hi, my name's Joe of The Joe Show. I'm from Edmonton, and I get to perform in this beautiful city of ours. Yeah, I do magic, comedy, and ventriloquism shows, and I'm able to rub shoulders with some of the most amazing people. Join me in this show as we ask entertainers, puppeteers, professionals, and performers questions about how they got started, why they do what they do. Join us. Welcome to Ask Entertainers. I'm Joe of The Joe Show, and we are here with
Randall Fraser. And I am the artistic director of the National Stilt Walkers of Canada.
Okay, wow, I'm so excited to have you on the show. We're definitely going to unpack that, figure what it is. I've been able to see you at a couple festivals now, which has been great. Yeah. And my question is, how did you get into performing?
How did I get into performing? Well, that's a tricky question. I've been essentially performing since forever. I used to listen to my dad's records and dance to them.
So your dad was like a singer, or?
No, he was an audiophile and a radio announcer. He used to do. So he was like a DJ at one point. He had a vast record collection, quadraphonic sound, the whole thing. And I would put on records very carefully, and then I would do these dances and compose them to myself. And then it sort of caught on. And then in high school, I discovered the drama program.
Okay.
I thought, that'll be an easy 5 credits.
Yeah.
No problem. And my life took a complete left turn, and it's never been the same since.
Okay, that was it, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's something. What's the first performance you've ever saw?
I was trying to figure out what the first performance I saw was. My first instinct was to say Arate Mime when I was in high school.
Okay.
But then as I thought about it, actually the first real performances I saw were my dad taking me to concerts of Tommy Banks and Big Miller and people like that.
Okay.
And so watching musicians on stage, people who were more than just musicians, they were performers. It wasn't just that you listened to the music, you watched them play it or sing it. And that was as much of the interaction as just being able to play or sing the song. There was the relationship with the audience. And I think that's kind of when I figured out, that's interesting. I like that, because performing is not, whatever you do as a performer is great.
Yeah.
But what makes it a performance and what makes it real and valuable is that you are doing something that creates a relationship between you and the audience. And you create this thing between you that is more than just your performance and more than just they're watching somebody. Yeah. And that's why live performance is so important.
Yeah.
For me anyway.
Yeah, it's creating that moment, right?
Yeah.
That memory and stuff too, that connection. I think it's all about too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's so real in a lot of performers, like they can perform, but it's that connecting. Do you find there's like certain advice with connecting with an audience because you do a lot of stuff, right? And you're trying to.
Yeah. I would say probably the biggest piece of advice that I learned that I still harken back to is the first thing you have to do and the last thing you have to do as a performer is listen to your audience. You can't just come out and blast them. You have to find out where they're at and find your way into them. So listening, it's like good improv.
Yeah.
Every good improver will tell you what's the secret to improv. Listening to what's being given to you. Because then you know where to go with it. It becomes this exchange. And that's the same thing with an audience.
It's like figuring out the boundaries of your painting to paint within the boundaries.
Exactly. Find out what they want, figure out what you've got that can be given to them in that way.
Right.
And then see where you can take them and where they can take you.
Yeah. That's great. And I mean, Take You too. I love that. I love that. You know, it's just not you're just doing that. It's allowing them to.
It's got to be a two-way exchange.
Exactly.
Otherwise,
I love that.
Right?
That is just great because that's totally what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how a memory's made, right?
For both sides.
Exactly. Oh man, this is great. Okay.
Yeah.
You've done performances all over the world too, haven't you? You've been to a lot of places.
Oh God, yeah. I've been to China. I've been to Washington. I've been to Ottawa.
Okay.
I've been to Bali. Been to Trinidad.
Okay. What's like? Do you have like a favorite performance that stands out for you, or?
Well, I have one.
Okay.
It's actually here in town.
Okay. It's okay.
I got to play Audrey 2 in the Little Shop of Horrors at the Citadel.
Okay.
And I'm a big musical nut. Like that's my nerd on is musicals, or was for quite a while.
Do you sing too and stuff, or
no?
No. Okay.
Not really. I mean, yes. Do I sing? I sing. Yes, all the time I sing. But do I sing professionally? No.
No. Okay. No. Fair enough.
But I didn't have to.
Okay.
Because the way Little Shop of Horrors is done, Audrey 2 is always performed by 2 performers.
Oh, okay.
The voice actor that sings and can do all of that voice stuff, and the puppeteer inside the various steps of the puppet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're inside the puppet.
Yeah, and we did that show for almost 3 months, and that cast and that show, it engaged all of my jam as a performer. It was
so
as
you're not
a builder
just,
too.
So you're not just limited to stilt walking. You puppeteer.
No. In fact, stilt walking came to me late in life.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. I started out as a actor and discovered the technical side of things. Okay. But then got dragged back into masks, puppets.
Okay. Do you build some of your own stuff, or?
I build everything.
You do?
All of my costumes. I have a costumer that I work with. Yeah. She's a trained tailor.
You say you got over 40 different characters, right?
Character sets. So that's 2 to 4 to 8 costumes per character set. Yeah.
Okay, so if you did like cowboys,
we have four cowboys.
4 cowboys.
Yeah, we can bring out 4 of them, so we can do a whole thing. Wrestle up the herd, so to speak.
Yeah, genie. You got the princess. You got whatever type of thing. Oh, okay. Wow, that's something. And you sew all that and make all that?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's impressive.
Design it, sew it, decorate it, maintain it.
That's right. It's a huge thing for sure.
No kidding.
You've talked about the best performing device that you've had. What did you ever have any worse performing device? Like something that someone's given you and you're like, this is not gonna fly.
Yeah. I had a professor in university, and we were doing the cherry orchard.
Okay.
This might go off in a little bomb in a very small part of the community. Yeah. A very old school story. But we were doing cherry orchard, and I was the only, again, this will come up a little bit later, we'll talk about this some more, but I was the only black person in the room, and they were trying to cast me in some role in this Russian play. Okay. And I ended up as this sort of minor character who was almost just shy of being a walk-on. Okay. Just 3 lines max. And this is my BFA training show. And the only note I got from the director just about the entire rehearsal process was, louder! Make it louder! And it was like, okay, I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. Why? What's my motivation? I'm trying to figure all these actor things, and all I'm getting is this louder. Which, yeah, anyway.
And
blah blah.
And loudness isn't necessarily the one thing too. Like you were telling me about dynamics with your voice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like understanding, right? Like where you can go and working with your audience, right? Like how does that work? Like you find.
Well, I mean, I've moved on from that note.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
It still niggles at the back of my mind, obviously, because when you asked that question, that's what came up. But of course, there's so much more to voice. It is as human beings, it's our first instrument. You know, next to our bodies, it's our first instrument of communication. Yeah. So that's probably where I put most of my experience and practice and training is into using my voice, supporting my voice, maintaining my voice, and finding out what it can do.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. It's very interesting.
You got to be your own sound effects sometimes. You got to be your own soundscape sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, all kinds of things. Yeah.
Did you find you did something in your career that made your career take off? Like
take off. I don't know if my career's really, I'm still waiting for that take off. But it's sort of. I mean, well, let's say I something that set me on the path that led me to where I am. And I would say that working with a company called Trickster Theatre out of Calgary was really formative. It really set me on a particular path. And when I started with them, I was hired as their tour manager to do all their techie stuff. It was a duo, and they toured schools, and they had 4 shows. Okay. So in
magic shows or what type of shows?
No, we're talking theater. Theater, dance.
I just thought it was tricky or something.
Trickster is the idea that the clown character.
Okay, like a jester almost or something like that.
David Chandler, who's the founder of the company, he's a clown, classic clown. Yeah. And then his wife was a dancer, ballet dancer, jazz dancer. So they formed this company, and they toured for years and years all over the entire province, out in BC, all over the place. They were at Expo, all this kind of stuff. Wow. And then, and I joined them in 1987, I believe. No, 1987, I think. And had to learn 4 shows in 3 weeks. So we had an elementary show, a junior high show, a high school show, and a festival show. Okay. The festival show was the Stilt show. Oh. So we did all those, and we toured them for a couple of years. And then in the early 90s, like 1990, I think, actually, the province announced this residency program, school residency arts program. So artist companies were given the opportunity to present ideas about what they could do in schools, and then see if we could get funding for them and if they could get an audience. And David came up with this idea that said, well, what if we work with the entire school, and build an original piece of theater using all the students, all of the teachers, everybody gives up the week, and that's all we do for a week. And on Friday, we present the show. Okay. And
like training them, teaching them everything.
Like everything. Wow. And I'm sure they said yes to our idea mainly because they thought that nobody would do it. Yeah. And here we are.
A full week too. That's a big commitment.
For a full week with 4 to 6 performers in the school, each of us working with a class, creating one element within the show, and then we'd put all the classes together, and then you'd have the stage, and then the students as the audience wrapped around it in their classes, and then their parents behind, and each team would come up, do their part of the show.
Was it like just singing or something?
No,
or
it was
more than
everything.
That? Everything,
like, so they were a physical theater company. Okay. They still are. They are now, I'll just say this now, they are now the most booked residency program in the province, bar none. Okay. Wow. You know, they do over 48 residencies a year. Wow. That's more weeks of residency programs there are. Bookable weeks in the year that there are. Wow. So that weird idea proved extremely popular. Okay. But I spent 12 years working with them. And that really gave me a grounding in listening to your audience, figuring out what people want, what they can do, how you can show that even limited skills shaped and honed in the right way can turn into something really cool. That's, and the whole idea is mostly what that program taught was not, it taught theater and it taught singing and it taught clown and it taught all that stuff. But what really taught people how to do was have an idea, explore the idea, shape the idea, and then present the idea.
Execution.
And that's, that was never talked about specifically, and certainly not with the kids. Yeah. But they all came away with that understanding of it intrinsically when they finished. And so then that really set me up for the kind of theater that I wanted to do and have gone on to do. And that's, so with the stilt walking, I try to think of characters that are going to be engaging to the audience, that are going to draw them in their curiosity, and then give them an opportunity for a 5 to 20 minute long little experience. It's very intimate and personal, or giant and spectacular, like we did at opening ceremony.
something too. This is great. Have there been any hurdles in life that you had to come over, like overcome, or just been smooth sailing all the way?
Oh yeah, no. It's just, yeah. No, you kind of go, am I still here? I'm still, look at me, I'm still getting away with it. Wow. Because there's always a hurdle of one form or another, whether it's funding or finding people to train, or somebody's broken their leg and you have to find a replacement, or I'm sure we packed those masks, or all kinds of things.
We're building our own stilts.
Probably one of the biggest. This is on everybody's lips these days. Is the biggest setback has been COVID in a big way. We've been in 2019 when the first wave hit, we first got slammed with it. NSC was about to have our best year ever, and I mean by a long shot. We had been planning. I'd had hired CSJ Canada Summer Job students working with me, and we worked really hard at making sure we had a full season. And we were like just humming and like, this is gonna be so much fun. And then March 13th, it was bam,
and the emails and the calls.
And within, as you know, within 3 days, gone. Anyway, so
magic happened.
But you just keep going.
No, that's a big hurdle for sure. I think everybody's gone through that too in some way, and how we're doing it. What's your most prized possession?
I really had to think about that. I have a couple of Janvier paintings, actual paintings, not prints, but actual paintings. Partly because he was somebody that my parents knew, and whenever his life wasn't going so well, he'd sort of turn her up at people's places and say, hey, I got a painting. And my dad, and there's a circle of people that would continually buy his pieces. And then, so my wife and I have both ended up with Jean-Pierre's that we're very proud of, because he's a lovely man. But probably, I have my grandfather, my father's father, was actually a really skilled artist. It's nothing that he ever pursued professionally in any way whatsoever. It's just something he did. And I have this charcoal print or charcoal painting, a drawing, I guess, of Cupid at rest. And it's just him with a hand of charcoal, and it looks, it's stunningly executed. I think you could have been a professional. And he's like, no, he was just a family man. But but it's a beautiful picture, and it's the only thing I have of his. So that's pretty precious. Special
too. If you were to lose everything, what's the first thing you would buy?
If I was to lose everything,
is there a prop or something you run out and buy? Like,
my tools. If I lost my tools, I'd have to start with my tools, because with my tools I could rebuild everything.
So power
sewing
tools.
machines.
Hey, you're going to Home Depot. You're buying
really,
tools.
no, actually, sewing machines.
Sewing machines. Okay, sewing machines.
Because it's all about
It's fabric.
But if I don't have my stilts, I can't do the thing that I've created.
Pair of stilts and some and a costume of some sort. Say, I guess you could get by with just a pair of stilts, couldn't you? Or do you need the costume? It's the character, right?
The stilts are engaging in one way. It's actually interesting. This gets into we could talk about this particular subject. I could talk about forever, because there's the engagement of the stilts themselves. And what kind of relationship you have with the audience there, because then you do have to be much more of a demonstrator. You say, yes, look, what do you think these are called? And look how I'm attached, and look what I can do. Can you do that?
Can you knock me over?
No, we don't go there if we don't have to. We've been there, but we won't go there if we have to. It rarely ends well, and usually not too bad for me, unfortunately. But when you add the costume, then you're inviting them into this world, the make-believe world, and then mostly what you do is you engage them as a character who happens to be very tall. And then you get to play the game of Stilt. What are you talking about? Look, I have shoes and socks down there. What's your, so you get,
that's right.
You always get there's a certain age where the kids go, you're on stilts, and then my usual answer is, can you do it? And that shuts them up really quick.
I have the same thing, right?
Or redirects them, right?
I have the same thing where I'm doing a puppet, right? I got my ventriloquism act, and people are like, it's a puppet. And I'm like, no, we have to be politically correct. It's a mannequin Canadian. That's what I say. That's what I tell people. And then the kid's like, oh, okay. Yeah, the kid's like, okay, well, it's a mannequin Canadian. Yeah. And then that just helps them. Yeah. So I found that, explaining that.
Or just confronting the distrust and saying, yeah, so, and diffusing it, the challenge of it. And then, because often they'll go, oh, right.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they'll engage with you.
And then get on with your show. But it's
yeah, so there's that tension between not wanting to be fooled and wanting to call you out and try and create a stir. But they also do want to play. They wouldn't come up to you if they didn't want to engage somehow.
Right.
So you just got to figure out how to get them on your side.
And stuff too as well.
Yeah.
That's on your side. That's true. Cool.
Yeah.
Is there something you're most proud of as a performer?
Most recently, I'm very proud of the show we've just created last year. We actually managed to, in the midst of all this chaos, actually create something. We created a new show called Bamcussion.
Okay.
A story of the one song. And it's a really sappy, wonderful little story about, it starts with the idea that many, many eons ago, back in the beginning, blah, 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 everything was in harmony. Everything had one heartbeat. And then there was, but over time, there was different, as more and more people grew, and there's more and more of us to try and coordinate. Our heartbeats got out of sync, and then we separated into tribes and villages and countries, and we got further. And all of the disharmony is because we've lost the one song, the underlying heartbeat. And so this is about, it's sort of a vague post-apocalyptic world where these keepers of the elements of the song, everybody's got their, well, we're the keepers of the fire song, we're the keeper of sort of the earth song, the air song, the water song. And they go
one song to rule them all.
And they
that's right.
So they go out seeking, and as they meet each other, first they're in conflict, and then they find that to solve a problem they have to work together, and then eventually by the end of it, they're all together.
Yeah.
And so it's it's the metaphor of we're in disparate times, and the way we're going to get through it is by acknowledging that we're all the same.
So did you write the songs yourself then too?
No. I had one of my students was a very accomplished musical person, and he created the whole score.
Okay. So just the sewing, not the songwriting.
The sewing and the choreography and the direction and the writing. We actually wrote, I had the outline theme of the story. I knew how the arc I wanted. But the actors and I all worked together saying, well, what can you do? Very like a trickster residency. I explored and created vocabulary with them, and then we shaped that into a show. And based on what they could do and what they were good at and what looked pretty and all that stuff. So I'm pretty proud of that.
No, it's great. I think if you ever got into songwriting and sewing, you could be a singer and songwriter, or so it seems.
But a bump.
Sorry, I just.
Not everybody is a punster like that.
I know,
and I'm glad that you are. I'm glad.
That's what pops in my head right now. Right?
We understand each other here.
That's exactly where we are now. I'm sorry. Okay. Too. Has there been a time when your audience has moved you?
I go back to many times, actually many times, but I go back to Trickster because those were such emotional shows. You had the kids working hard all week and starting off with, either skepticism, wonder, confusion, sometimes actual hostility in some cases. No, really. And by the end, being completely amazed and surprised and exhilarated.
So did you perform for the parents too?
The whole show was the idea on the Friday. They would be on the floor and they'd essentially perform for each other as well as their families. So you'd have the kids in the one ring, and then all the parents behind, and each show would come up. And you would perform with your classes. So I would end up on stage 3, 4, 5, whatever times, however many classes I had. And we would all do that and act as the sort of flag bearer, driver, champion. Or very often we created the idea that we're the foil or the problem, so that they're working around us, and it's a good dynamic. It keeps you on stage with them without taking the limelight. And but those shows are always very emotional because you see the kids discovering that they're amazing, and discovering that their friends are amazing, and the parents realizing that their kids are amazing.
Yeah, exactly, too. Giving them the opportunity, right?
And those were always extremely emotional. Yeah, definitely.
For me, like I stuttered as a kid, so I had to take speech therapy, and a lot of it was I remember being in a play, and I didn't really have any lines. Right. It was the Emperor's New Clothes, and I had to do this thing by Hans Christian Andersen, and I didn't have any lines, but it got me into drama, being able to perform, and I realized this is something I can do to express myself. Yeah. And that's kind of how I started off, right? But having that opportunity, I remember there was just 2 people that came out. They did the play as a school. We had time. We had to rehearse and practice it. Yeah. But I love that opportunity too. So it really strikes a chord with me too when you're sharing. What's on your performer's bucket list? Do you have something that you'd love to do, or?
I was thinking about this. I guess as a stilt walker, I think the thing that's on my list, I'd love to set or break a record. Okay. I don't know which one yet. Okay. I'm trying to figure out.
You got a couple ideas you're thinking of? Or?
I would have to hang in for a long time to get to be the oldest stilt walker. Okay. There's too many. There's too many old schoolers out there that are way ahead of me. But longest distance, longest stilts,
time on stilts.
I read the records and see what's there, and then I think about which ones I could attempt. Okay. And the ones that are the most
plausible, or what?
The most likely are the repetitive trick ones. That's probably would be the easiest to go for, but the really interesting ones are like tallest or furthest distance or something like that.
All right, interesting. So, well, I've seen you, in costume, and you even got these little tiny shoes, which is really fun too. I love the little shoes. Oh my god, it's great! Like they're just so tiny, and you're walking around with them, and it's just my kid.
How do somebody so big have such tiny feet? Oh my god!
Yeah, I know my kids still talk about that too, so it's awesome. So we want to do the 2 truths and a lie.
Oh,
which is fun. So you tell me 3 stories.
I'll tell you 3 stories. Okay.
And which one's false? So it'll be kind of funnier. Well, hopefully I can do it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first story is one of my first professional performances was a performance of Midsummer Night's Dream that was done in Gallagher Park on the hillside in a tent. Okay. And we had been rehearsing in the show, and there was all these amazing actors in it. I was one of the villagers and a fairy. Okay. So I was in the chorus essentially. But opening night, we were, so if you know Gallagher Hill, we were on the far east end of the hill. Okay. And the tent was actually up on the slope. Okay. So that the backdrop where the stage was built, the audience sat up and in. So we used the ground as our natural amphitheater. And then the stage was there, and the backdrop to the stage was downtown Edmonton. Okay. And the tent flaps were open. So the tent flaps were open at the back, tent flaps open at the front. Show's going. We're just about into the scene where Titania and Oberon are coming on stage and about to have that big epic confrontation. Ill met by moonlight, proud Titania. And when the show started, it was a beautiful, sunny, warm day. And as the show progressed, the clouds were rolling in and the wind was picking up. And we were thinking, we're all backstage going, what the hell's going on? It's going to storm, it's going to rain, oh my God, oh my God. And then right at that scene, they've got these diaphanous wings on stage and the wind's coming up and getting heavier and heavier, and all of a sudden, and this is like, Oberon, has his big moment of blah, 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 and I can't remember the line, and this crack of lightning came, wham, and the whole, it was like, and then the thunder was like right on it, it was like right there, and we all went, ah! And then it started to pour. Oh, wow. And the wind was coming in and trying to actually lift, those big A-frame tents, those big Arabesk? It was trying to the wind was so strong, it was trying to lift the tents off, and the whole audience, we ran to the edges, the techs are trying to pull, and the actors are trying to pull the tarps closed and batten down. We got it battened down. We're all in this huddle, and it's raining up top really hard. We're all soaking wet.
Your audience is running to the cars, or no?
Well, some, but most of it was raining too hard. It got stuck in there. So we're all sitting there dripping wet, and we say to the audience, well, we're all stuck here.
Yeah.
We can't do any tech anymore, but do you want us to finish the show? And they're like, yeah! So they're all huddled really close, soaking wet, and we're all kind of straggling. We finished the show. It was bizarre.
Okay, it's a weird story. All right.
So that's story number one. Okay. Story number two was getting to go to Nanjing, China to be in this European/Western circus performance in China. And we got to Nanjing, and we were in this hotel, blah blah, this all that stuff. But they take us onto the stage, or onto the. It ends up we're not sure what we're going to find when we get there. Actually, Nikolai was on that. There's all kinds of people on this trip, and we go in, and it's this big, huge arena. This arena, and when you walk in, there's the Olympic rings. They're like right there, and these two, these, I guess they're steel or aluminum statues, big tall statues of this arena. And there's all of us, all the performers, and we got our gear, and this is the first time we're going through, and we walk through, and we stop, and we look around, and it's like this really big amphitheater kind of venue, like a sports venue, but it looks like it's an abandoned Amazon forest. It's got trees growing in the stands. I mean, seriously, out of the concrete, and bushes and vines over. It's like this whole thing, and it's just like it's been abandoned for 30, 40 years, and then they just decided, we got to have this event. We'll have it here, and they just opened the doors and dusted things off. And we were like, what? It was like, are we going to get out of here alive? We've gone back into some weird time.
Nikolai's like, I should have brought my T-Rex.
The T-Rex would have been very funny there. Oh my God. Okay, so that's story number two.
Second story.
Story number three.
Wow, this is getting tricky.
Story number three. There's a festival down in Oregon, just outside of Eugene, Oregon, called the Oregon Country Fair.
Okay.
And it's kind of like Woodstock meets Sherwood Forest.
Okay.
So it's got that whole Renaissance fair kind of buzz to it. Except that it's run by the people who were the original groupies and band members of the Grateful Dead.
Okay.
So it's tie-dye meets leather moccasins.
Okay, all right.
But it's on about maybe 100 acres of land, and it weaves through the forest, and there's clearings. It's an extraordinary place. I got to go down there one year, and I took all my Stilt gears with me, and I had a little bit of trouble with the border, saying, no, I'm not going down to work, this is my toys. These are my toys. Just managed to sneak through. Get down there. So we're out there, and I had my 2-foot stilts. What I normally perform on is my 4-foots. But I had just invented this new set that were 20 feet tall.
Okay.
And they had to fit together in sections, right? So I had to click, 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 click. And then I had to figure out where I could actually put them on.
Okay.
So I'm in the middle of the nature. I literally find a tree that was tall enough, that had a branch sticking out far enough that I could then lean my stilts up against, climb the tree, get up there. Key element to this story is that while I was climbing the tree, I had one of these giant, those giant 7-Eleven mugs?
The
big ones?
the big gulp,
So I used to keep my coffee in that. It was my morning coffee was one of those. So I had that clipped onto my belt because I wanted to walk around, morning stroll on my stilts out in the middle of the Chamilla Meadow with my coffee mug. So I climbed the tree, got up there, got onto my stilts, got them on, and stood up, and then got my balance, and sort of was surveying where everybody was, and started to take my steps. And with tall stilts, the taller you go, the heavier they get, for one thing. And the slower the steps take.
Okay.
So you're not taking lots and lots of little steps. You're taking a few really kind of lumberous. And you're trying to haul this weight. 20-foot stilts, about 20 to 30 pounds each. You have to lift that and still hopefully keep your balance. So I'm getting there, and I'm taking a few steps, and I'm getting my legs, and thinking, okay, we're good to go. We're good to go. And I step out, and there's this crowd of people around, and there's a woman and her 2 kids over here, and a couple of people over there, and some people way over there, that are close anyway. And I'm sort of getting my legs under me and taking these steps and walking, and all of a sudden I go, and one of my stilts, I didn't have the little shoes at that time, I had these big pads, and one of the pads had gotten hooked on a root. And I, because it was heavy and the angle I was at, I couldn't get it out. And so I started to fall. And I was falling, and I started to fall towards the mother and her kids. And I was thinking, this is not going to go well. And I kind of cranked on the stilts, and I actually steered myself away. I was falling. So the way we fall on stilts is we don't put our hands out and go, You lean back away from it as far as you can. You keep leaning. The opposite direction. It actually slows the fall. Because you're breaking momentum. The other thing is your head's not the end of the fulcrum.
Exactly.
Right? So I'm leaning way back. I've got my coffee mug. I'm going, get out of the way. And I steered myself right between the couple and the family, and went poof, and hit the ground, and went flat, banged my forehead, and pushed myself back up. And when you do something really dumb and then you're not really thinking straight. The first thing I did was look at my coffee and make sure the lid hadn't come off. It's like, hey, I still got my coffee, and everybody went from this moment of terror to, he's okay. And then of course I had to take them off.
Oh man.
So
So I'm supposed to guess which is the lie.
Which one?
Oh man.
Which one is the lie?
Okay, so I think that each story is probably true, but you've just adjusted part of it to make it a lie. So for example, maybe it's not 20-foot stilts, maybe it's 15-foot stilts or 12-foot stilts. And maybe you didn't finish the show because it was raining. So maybe you thought it was going to go on, and you just said that you did finish the show, but technically you didn't. So I think the China one is probably true, and I'm thinking probably the size of the stilts. I don't think you could do 20-foot stilts, but I'm really leaning towards, did you finish maybe you could do 20-foot stilts. I'm leaning maybe towards the weather. I don't think you maybe finished the show because it's just raining, but it's probably the China ones that's not true. I don't know. So
What's it going to be? Come on. Put your money down. Let's go.
I'm going to say that it's the...
What's the writing?
It's the weather. It's the weather one.
Put your money down. Let's go.
I'm going to say that it's the...
What's the writing?
It's the weather. It's the weather one.
It's the weather one? I win!
You win. Okay. What was
that really happened.
Okay, so what was the...
What was that? You were on exactly the right tack. They were not 20-foot stilts.
20-foot. I should have said...
They were...
You looked at me and you gave that weird look. I told you. I was on it. I should have gone with my gut. Yeah, because you
only
can't.
10.
10. Yeah, okay. Well,
but the fall really happened.
Yeah, I figured as
and
much.
I really didn't
see,
spill
exactly.
my coffee.
I was like, it still went because your details there.
I know.
So I should have gone with that.
Yeah, you should have.
Okay.
Trust your instincts.
Trust my instincts. Well, I think I had it. I was pretty close. I was pretty good at this. Well,
we both got to win.
Well, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. It has been great having you.
Absolutely.
And it's awesome. So I want to thank you again for coming out, and looking forward to seeing you in action, and it'll be good too.
Let's hope for a good season.
Yes, exactly.
Right on. Thanks again.
Yeah. Our thought for today is there are 2 words in show business. Don't just focus on the show, but make the booking, the business side, enjoyable as well. Show business. A lot of people get out there, you're performing, you got the hour, whatever you're going to do, and you want it to be the best it can be. But honestly, it starts from the first email, phone call, booking, relationships, scheduling, all those things, the business side. Make sure you're there for your client. Phone them up ahead of time to confirm that you're coming. Let them know that you're interested, that you're excited. Let it be an amazing thing when they call you, that you're able to connect with them right away. Put all of their worries at ease. The business side is so important, and I think that a lot of times we lack that. Show business. Don't just focus on the show, focus on the business as well. And that's how you will succeed in life.